Hello. I come to you today with a story, with a tale, and I think the beautiful thing about stories is that they have the potential to contain within them a gift. They have the potential to contain something that we can take away with us, or ignite something in us, or reminds us of something which was already there but maybe needed a little bit of encouragement for us to be able to fully perceive it. And that's what I love about the nature of stories, and as humans we are such intrinsic, inherent storytellers. And so this tale I'm going to tell you is called The Weird Child, and in case you hadn't already guessed, that weird child was me. And I had an experience when I was at school, and I went to school in Edinburgh, Scotland, and in around primary 5, so if you're somewhere else in the world, you're around 9 or 10 years old when you're in primary 5 in Scotland, and if that's not hard enough age, trying to navigate all of those social landscapes and everything, our teacher decided that we were going to do this exercise where we passed around a piece of paper, and this was kind of at the end of the school day, maybe like the last sort of exercise of the day. So we all had to write our name at the top of the paper and then pass it around each person in the class, and we each had to write something. It's meant to be something nice, okay, about the other people in our class. And I, took part in the exercise, as did everybody. And, a key feature of this exercise as well was that you would write something and then you'd fold it over. So the idea is that the person before you doesn't see what was written. And, everyone's sort of quite, sort of buzzing and excited to get their piece of paper back and, what's everybody written? And I always have had this thing where I really struggle to see how others perceive me. And I think that's, a fairly common thing. But I saw something around it written in my human design chart. I can't remember what part of my chart it is specifically, which says that these people tend to have like a really, really hard time seeing how others perceive them. And I think that maybe added to my, sort of curiosity around this, and maybe my shock and surprise when I saw what was written on that piece of paper, because I remember opening it up and almost every single person in the class wrote that I was weird. And it really hurt me, because as a 9 or 10-year-old, you don't have the sort of, I didn't have the capacity, maybe others do, but I didn't have the capacity to see that actually that's quite an amazing thing. But at the time, it just really, really hurt, And it was like, I remember, because we were it was towards the end of the day. And so it was the last exercise. I remember just going home and just crying my eyes out, which was not uncommon for me because, as I've said in other videos, I grew up mixed race in Scotland. It's a very white space landscape to grow up in as somebody who doesn't fit the bill, essentially. And, to further complicate things, my mum was adopted by a white family. And so I didn't grow up with like strong connections to certain ethnic roots, which I do actually have. So that kind of added to this sort of complication of like, I'm growing up in this white space. Most of the people around me are white. And, not going home to like a strong cultural background of going, well, this is where you're from kind of thing. So it really hurt to see all of those things kind of written about me in that way, and to see it as sort of plainly as that as well. And I remember, going home and, my mom was kind of like, oh God, what's happened now? Because, I was forever experiencing different issues at school with people making horrible comments about the way I looked, about the colour of my skin, etc., etc. And I remember she looked at the piece of paper and she really tried to sort of hone in on the fact that two people, one of whom I'm still really good friends with now, had written like really lovely things about me. But for in a class of like 30 odd children, for like 90% of them to write that you're weird, it stuck with me for a very, very long time. And it was only last night when I was sitting kind of reflecting on that, because it's something that has kind of cropped up over time. This happened like 20 years ago, but it's something that has kind of recurred throughout my life, is this idea of being strange or being different or being weird, or people seeing me as other and outsider. And I don't believe that's just because of the color of my skin, but just perhaps the way I am intrinsically. And it has been this sort of theme that has followed me. And, either people kind of respond and see that weirdness and see it as something that is, they resonate with or align with, or just are accepting of it, or people really take a strong aversion to me. And that's been another theme kind of throughout my life. I remember going out with a guy when I was younger, and, I didn't have a TV in my house. I was probably like, 22 at this time. And I hadn't had a TV since I was about 17 or 18. And everyone, all of his friends were just like, oh my God, she's not got a TV. And it was just this thing. And it was like, whenever we'd hang out with any of the other friends, it was clear they'd all been talking about the fact that I didn't have a TV and I was this like weirdo, So, and I think the gift that I take from this story is that it's a gift to be weird. It's a gift to be against, and in fact, against isn't even the right word, because that's almost like creating this sort of polarity, but it's a gift to be able to stand outside of the mainstream current and not feel that you're being taken away with it, and to be able to discern and to be able to go, actually, no, just because everybody's got a television doesn't mean that I need to have one, and when we look at the other thing I was kind of reflecting on as well, was when we look at that etymological root of the word weird, it means somebody who has the power to control fate, somebody who has the power to control destiny, and is, very much in tune with that knowing and with that power. And so when I was lying in bed last night, I was shedding a little tear for that part of me, and really like honoring her and taking like a really deep bow to her, as somebody who was not only visibly very, very different from everybody, but also had maybe particular character traits. Or, I used to do things like be having conversations with shadow people on the wall. Maybe that's why they thought I was weird. Things like that. And just really honoring those parts of me, which maybe at times I felt that I had to hide, or that I had to conceal, or I wasn't safe to share or expose for fear of that public ridicule or social alienation, which was something that was always already looming over my head as someone who was so visibly different from everybody else. And so my life's been kind of these waves of like, at times really trying to fit in, failing miserably, and then deciding, actually, no, you know what, this is who the fuck I am. And if you think I'm weird, then that's totally okay. So I really think in this time that we're in at the moment, this sort of transition into springtime and this sort of in bulk, in the belly time, where we're moving out of the Cailleach, out of the crone, out of those winter seasons, I think I can speak for a lot of people here, or certainly attest to the notion that this winter has been one of very deep archetypal deaths. And I've seen that within myself, I've seen that within so many people around me, clients, etc., that we have been going through these deep, very, very deep archetypal deaths, which feels like it's kind of been from that sort of 2020, 2021 kind of period. It feels like there's a closure around that, and I'm moving into something new. I'm moving into a different kind of seasonal springtime, maybe in a deeper way that we have been previously. in the last few years. It feels like more of a renewal, more of a rebirth. And I think it's so important in these times of transition to honor where we've come and to honor our former selves and those selves which still exist within us in some way. And yeah, so just feeling a little blessing coming through, and just gonna share that as the sort of closure to this video. So yeah, and what I'm here, I'm just very clearly seeing this sort of archetypal crone, Cailleach, and she's almost doing this like handover to Bridget, to springtime. And so maybe just taking a deep breath and just connecting with your heart space, and just setting the intention just to release the baggage of winter, ready to unpack it and find within it those seeds that we're ready to plant for springtime. Yukrasa, shukrasa, yaloku, lana sakrenesi, la kaurasanya, na kurasanya sakrunase, shukrasa. Mishkaratura da ishkara sukia sakru no sukru suya shakrasa fukrata. Just opening our crowns to receive these blessings and grounding them in, planting them like seeds. And we don't necessarily need to know exactly what these are yet. Maybe we do already, but we don't need to. And just coming back to the heart space, and just sending a deep thanks to the season of winter for holding us, for carrying us, for connecting us with the parts of ourselves that are ready to release, that are ready to die, and are ready to be reborn. Okay, thank you so much for connecting in with this story, with this little blessing, a little bit of light language, and hope you can take away a little gift, a little bit of reflection from this. Sending you all of my love. Goodbye.